Hi, everybody. This is C. Brian Madden, author of The Way It Should Be Taught series, Short Stories of Navy Hospital Corpsmen, and my newest publication, Don't Believe the Hype, The Incredible History of Communist Subversion in America's Black Community. Hold this book up just like it is. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. And that picture back there on the book cover is part of the Ferguson riots that was done in 2014 and 2015. It's available on Amazon.com. It's available at Books A Million. It's available at Barnes & Noble. It's available at Abris. Or wherever you buy your books, it's available. If they don't have it on the shelf, you can order those books. So feel free to get a copy of my newest publication. It really tells you what's going on. Don't believe the hype. In the meantime, I'm going to read you the introduction of Don't Believe the Hype. And to give you a little insight exactly what the content of this book. Okay? So on the back of the book, and this is what my introduction always starts off, is a quote from Carter G. Woodson. And the quote from Carter G. Woodson says, "When you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions." Carter G. Woodson's quotation highlighted above reflects an actual description of the United States of America of 2017, especially when it comes to the black community in particular. When Woodson penned his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, in 1933, he was describing the geopolitical conditions of the era. However, despite the differences in time, Woodson's quote can easily be applied to all generations of Americans, regardless of skin color or culture. What this quotation really means is that once you have a selected group of people and our entities whose main purpose is to push their agenda down the throats of the targeted population, mentally using lies and misinformation, that target population will believe what is said and will do as they were told without any question. It is highly important for the reader to understand that this is exactly what is going on this very minute in the United States of America. One must wonder, how could this be? There's no way in the world that just a few people can control the thought process of millions of people and their very existence. It's impossible. Well, unfortunately, it is possible. As a matter of fact, there are a selected few number of people who are currently controlling the minds of many. Let's take America's black community for example. For years, selected groups of Democrat politicians, church ministers, community organizers, and their supporting organizations have taught that despite all their advancements and improvements of race relations within the past 30 plus years, 50 plus years, full racial relations for blacks have still not yet been achieved. These same groups will tell you that regardless of what you see, there's the thing seems always to be that more work needs to be done, quote unquote, for black Americans. It's amazing to think that who decides when racial relations have been achieved, the people or someone else? Interesting question. These ministers, politicians, and community organizers will also tell the lie to their members of the black community that Jim Crow still exists and is worse than ever before, and that the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, are parties to lynch anybody black throughout America at any time. These men and women will say to their African American constituents that in order for racial relations to get better, black folks need to come together, rally behind them, and together as a force will destroy racism and usher in a quote unquote new society in the form of socialism/communism. I want to throw a little quote in there in between. Socialism and communism, they want to tell you that, but they will tell you the new society. Okay? Let's move on. A system which they contend will be fair and equal, and that once and for all will abolish racism, These blatant lies and falsehoods are just that, pure lies and fallacy. Unbeknownst to the people spreading these lies, it appears they didn't study history as it's been written, or they're missing reality themselves. They fail to comprehend that history has proven time and time again that both socialism and communism have killed millions of innocent people. So far, Jim Crow still being alive and well in 2017, and racial relations worse than ever, is such an enormous fabrication. I'm gonna throw a little side note there. If Jim Crow was still alive, and if you particularly look at living it down south, do you see any colored water fountains? Do you see any colored bathrooms? Do you see any white-only water fountains? Do you see any white-only bathrooms? Do you see the huge segregation of the past? But that was really real segregation back then of the races. Just think about that. It's a lie. So one may ask this question: how could anyone be suckered into believing actual lies and distortions of facts despite them being such obvious? Easy. It's because the lies and disinformation being portrayed by evil people are being taught and reinforced each and every day for years. It's gotten to the point to where we in the black community have allowed ourselves to be psychologically conditioned to accept such misrepresentation of historical facts. The result of accepting lies as being true that it has affected ourselves, our community, and our sense of reality. To make things worse, there is even a book written by somebody titled The New Jim Crow that told the very lies and deception that I just mentioned. Such propaganda have now become widespread. However, such propaganda has become popular lately because the lies and deception being pumped into the soft heads of the African American youth today, and it's being sold as a normal course of history, when in actuality it is not. Of course, the lies and propaganda are being advertised consistently by using every aspect of the American media. The public education system, religious organization, and so-called quote-unquote black leaders. We've been consistently told that regardless of advancement in racial relations, our economic standards, and even electing the first black president of the United States, the black community itself would never amount to anything successful because of the color of our skin. This is nonsense, and it's an absolute bald-faced lie. The sad part of this nonsense is this: the consistent reinforcement of these lies done daily, even subliminally, that blacks will always be inferior to whites here in America, no matter what. Even sadder part of these lies that exist is that such messages are being perpetrated by the ones who call themselves members of black leadership or community organizers within the inner cities of America. Organizations such as the National Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, the Nation of Islam, the National Action Network, Black Lives Matter Movement, the New Black Panther Party, Organizers from Action, and all these other groups ratchet up their rhetoric of inequality, quote unquote, by manipulating people's emotions using terms like, quote unquote, systematic racism or, quote unquote, white privilege, to further stoke hate and discontent within the African American community. By doing this, groups such as these will almost certainly cause an instant emotional response that can be further driven to the point where the people themselves cannot make any real sensible conclusions of what they're being told. If such lies are told over and over again with such force that anger will replace rationality, causing some people to begin to act out their anger and frustrations physically. By causing others to act out irrationally, the affected section of the black community resort to any and everything, including violence and outright anarchy. to portray their anger and discontent to make the outrage look legitimate. This is what happened during Michael Brown, Alden Sterling, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, and a lot of others. Is by stoking the anger, the emotional anger within the black community, since they've already been brainwashed, since blacks have for years. And I've been part of that too. Have been taught that your skin color is a curse. You never mount to anything. See, mounts will die for something. This is what happens. You begin to act out, rationality goes out the window, and you start to act out physically. The aforementioned groups and many others like them intentionally initiate such emotional lies under false pretenses, both for monetary gain and media stardom. So understand that they're only doing this on purpose to enrich their pockets of the emotions of the people and to gain stardom. However, simultaneously, groups like Black Lives Matter assist the real white races of Marxists in keeping the black community segregated from the rest of society. When you hinder a community from advancing as a collective bunch, they will, by human nature, begin to fight back and resist. In other words, what these so-called black leaders do is to keep their own people controlled because they've been told by others to do so. Sick, isn't it? And it's a known fact that these black leaders lay in the same bed with the corrupt, crooked politicians, the rich, elite Marxist racists within the entertainment, banking, investment industries, college professors, and those holding various positions of power throughout the federal government. Yes, this list of characters fit this bill. It includes the 44th President of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, and others within his inner circle, such as Communist Party USA. Some of these agitators are from other races and cultures and gender backgrounds. This doesn't matter because everything explained is all rooted in Marxism. Such people who follow this twisted ideology are called Marxists. They only see two colors, however, red and green. Red for their allegiance to communism and green for the amount of money or capital they invest to fundamentally transform the United States into a Stalinist-type Russia. Each one of us can see this plain and clear with your own eyes if you take the blinders off and think rationally for yourself without any outside influences, such as the news media. The idea and driving force behind this nonsense is an actual mental condition called the victim mentality syndrome, or professionally termed narcissism. Such mental ideological subversion within the black community is dangerous to those who do not have such illnesses. People afflicted with the victim mentality syndrome or narcissism will use the population emotionally in order for them to act a certain way because of their mind has been controlled to drive a specific agenda. By implanting lies and deception of truth, manipulating the social skills and rationality processing of young millennial-age blacks, the end goal of what specific agenda called global communism will usher in this new quote-unquote society. In other words, by controlling the minds, as Carter G. Woodson said, you don't have to worry about their actions. Doing such evil deeds will put enormous political power and social power in the hands of certain few bureaucrats to rule over the many. That the end solution of self-genocidal revolution that will finally destroy the black community slowly and for surely, both from outside controlling forces and within the community itself. So, of the many questions that may come to mind as to why would they do such a thing? Why would people represent the black community, the person who put them into positions of power, along with the trust and faith in them, to have a voice in everyday society, lie and deceive the very people who they identify themselves with? Let me repeat that sentence again. Why would people who represent the black community, the persons who put them into many positions of power, along with their trust and faith in them, to have a voice into everyday society, lie and deceive the very people who they identify themselves with. Take a second to think about that. The answer may shock you. However, it is easy for this author to explain. Why? Because the people reinforcing the stereotype subliminally that whites will always be superior to blacks, no matter how much progress in racial relations have been made over the past 50 plus years, really think that at the end of this new transformation of this country, the United States, that they will have a special place, quote unquote, in power in this new society. In other words, at the end game, they don't care about you. In the end game, it's all about them. And at the end game, they think they're going to be in power. You're expendable, in other words. The people such as the Reverend Al Sharpton and others who they use to trick them emotionally to help these pathetic leaders who falsely represent them, thus, to advance society to this latter point, they would need a select section of the black community to both emotionally and physically support their fake cause of quote-unquote equality. Unfortunately, written history has taught us that such action only ends in deadly and fatal results. Think about some of these questions in this where I just asked, and think about what's really going on inside the United States. This is C. Brian Madden signing off. Until another video. Please don't forget, go buy Don't Believe the Hype, the incredible history of communist subversion in America's black community. Have a great day.